what we're going to be talking about today is the art of storytelling, and this is specifically a masterclass. Now, it's run by myself. Lauren is here facilitating the Q&A area, so if you have any questions, any comments at any time, please do pop them into the questions box. Normally, as standard, we do Q&A at the end, and if we happen to run out of time, then I will personally be in touch with you to answer any queries that you might have. So on the agenda today, now, before I go through this, I don't tend to like a lot of text on screen, you'll be pleased to know. However, this presentation has meant that I've had to have a little bit more text on that I like, but I have got some visual examples, so don't worry for those of you that, you know, death by PowerPoint. Hopefully that's not going to happen. So firstly, what I'm going to cover is housekeeping. Now, as I mentioned before, there's a question area. Put any questions, any comments in there. We also do have a couple of polls that we're going to be asking. When you finish the webinar, it should pop up and give you the option to complete a very short survey just to say, how did we do, and anything we can do better, and any training that you want us to be covering in these free masterclasses that we do. So then we're going to talk about who am I, and then we're going to talk about what is storytelling, and we're going to delve into why you would tell stories. We're going to talk about what are the 3 essential components of a good story. We're going to talk about point of view as well, about how you want to come across, and then tips for crafting your message. Now, anyone that has registered for this webinar will get a link to the on-demand version, the recorded version. So don't worry if there's stuff in here that you'd really love and you think, how am I going to access it after? We're going to put it on YouTube and we'll make sure that you can access it, for those that are registered, that is. For those who are viewing us on Facebook, if you just get in touch with us. And for those who have registered as well, if you would like the slides, then let me know. I'll happily give those to you. I'm going to also cover something called the golden circle, if you haven't come across that before. And then we're going to go through some nice visual examples. And then we're also going to talk about some formulas. And those of you that may have noticed, as I started to share my screen, there was a blog post that we have literally just launched a couple of hours ago for this webinar, or for this masterclass. And I'm going to put a link into the chat section on the, I'm going to put a link into the chat section. Here we go. And that will take you straight to the blog post. I mean, go there now, but don't read it. Keep looking at me, keep paying attention to me. And that has got an obscene amount of formulas and ways that you can write headers that we found. And I do want to give a big shout out to Stacey, who we borrowed the content off from the blog. We did loads of research to pull this masterclass together, and her blog post that we found was really comprehensive. She does such a fantastic job. So of course we credit her in the blog post, and right at the end of the blog post you can link through to her original post, which has examples as well of the formulas in context. Okay. We're also going to just summarize the storytelling process, and then we're going to talk about next steps and then cover any questions if we have time. And as I mentioned to you before, if we don't get time, then don't worry, I'll get back to you personally and answer your questions. Okay, so let's begin. It's me. This photo I use everywhere. So in terms of brand awareness, you'll always see this photo. So I've been in the publishing industry nearly 20 years, and I've worked for companies like British Standards Institution, aggregators like ProQuest and EBL eBook Library, even though ProQuest bought EBL eBook Library, so it's no longer EBL eBook Library. I also worked at the Royal Society of Chemistry, and I worked for Kudos as well, and just trying to think where else I've worked. But those are the main ones. And so I've been in marketing since I was about, I don't know, about 18. And really for me, it was when I was doing my degree and I did a couple of modules, I was like, oh my God, I love marketing. And that's where the passion began for me. Now, storytelling has been around for a long time. And it's now that we're finding that there's a real shift in how those in the publishing industry, the academic publishing industry, are thinking that they're really putting the customer at the heart of everything that they do. And it's very much about content marketing. And part of that is how you might write your content. And I know that if I look at some of the participants on my list here, that some of you are actually, certainly one of you is an active blogger that I follow. So hopefully what we're going to cover today is really going to resonate. So I'm going to carry on because I don't like talking about me because it's a bit boring. Okay, so I'm going to run a poll. Now, the first poll that I'm going to run is, I'd like to ask you is, how confident do you feel writing in a storytelling style? So you've got 4 options here. You've got very confident, confident, somewhat confident, and then not confident. So I can see that people are beginning to answer that. Okay, and I've got nearly most people have completed that. So what's great to see is that most people either feel confident or somewhat confident. So that's fantastic. And that also helps me to gauge when I'm talking about things in this session that I make it more relevant to you. Okay, great. So we're going to end that polling. So what is storytelling? Now, HubSpot is a great place that we like to go, which has got fantastic research in it. They've got really good videos as well, as have we on our YouTube channel, let me tell you. What is storytelling? Well, if I use their language, it's the cohesive narrative that weaves together the facts and emotions that your brand evokes. Really, in simple terms, and this is the thing about storytelling, it's simple and it's clear and it resonates. It's basically the glue that binds it all together, the facts, the emotions that you want your brand to evoke. And your brand could be at a product level too. In addition to giving your customers reasons why they should buy a product or service, businesses need to start sharing the story behind their brand, why it exists and why this matters consistently across all communication. One of the phrases that I've used for years and years and years is that people sell to people, businesses do not sell to people. And this is why storytelling really resonates from that respect. It's about creating that emotional hook that really resonates with someone, that they want to read further, that you're really engaging them. So why do we tell stories? So stories simplify complex messaging. And that's really important, especially if you're dealing with a product or a service that's very technical and you want to make sure it's clear and concise. You want to also make sure that stories ensure that your brand is relatable. So remember my phrase that I say is people sell to people. It needs to be relatable to the target audience, whether that is a specific niche target audience or whether you're doing it to a general community. And because we work primarily with publishers and intermediaries who sit between publishers and libraries as well, we are going to give examples that are going to be academic publishing industry focused. Also, stories connect people together, and that's really important. It's that human connection. And it's about feeling connected and belonging. And you want to inspire, and I've mentioned this word before, you want to resonate, and that's really, really important. And you want to motivate, because ultimately, once you inspire and you resonate with them, you want them to do something like a call to action. And of course, stories, they improve engagement rates. And they help you stand out from the crowd. Now, we live in a highly competitive environment, and there is so much noise out there. I hardly use Twitter because I find it so noisy, and you can just bombard messages continually out there. And if people see them, great. If people are using hashtags, even better. But actually, you only have a really small amount of time. So you need to make sure that stories are making you as an individual, as a product, a service, or as a brand, make sure that you become unforgettable. So stories are 22% more memorable than facts and figures alone. Now, I, as a marketing professional, love stats. Those that have worked with me know that I'm really statistically driven. I love data. and data really resonates with me, but actually using them together, the story and this data as evidence, is really powerful stuff. You need to ensure that you create trust, that you're truthful in what you're saying, and also you're authentic. When we were doing all this research, I came across this on just a website somewhere, and so I just wanted to reference it. But good copy doesn't try to impress, but aims to communicate with clarity and power. Now, I found that to be a really strong statement, because it's really important that it's powerful, but also it's clear and concise. So what are the components of a good story? And remember, if you have any questions, please let me know, and I'll happily answer these at the end. Don't wait until the end to put your question in, because if you're anything like me, you'll forget. Okay, so there are 3 essential components of a good story. You've got the characters, you've got the conflict, and you've got the resolution. Now, this masterclass isn't about how am I going to write a book. This is about storytelling that is specific to your style of what the content that you want to create, to that format. So we're going to talk about characters. Now, the characters of your story, who are they? This is where you create the link between the person telling the story, so like the storyteller, for example, or the brand, and the audience. That's the target audience. So whether that is at a researcher, or whether that's at an author or a reader, or whether that's at a librarian or an information professional from the corporate side, really it very much depends. So it's how you create that link. And you need to value and comprehend who your audience is. That is incredibly important. Your audience, they need to see themselves as the characters in your content. And I'm going to give you an example of this. Have you ever seen a piece of content that really resonates with you? And I'm looking at you right now because I'm asking you. So have you ever come across anything that is so memorable? And then how did it relate? So we want you to tell us. We want you to tell us. By adding into the question box, or if you share on social, any social media you want to, just hashtag #IntBunch. Have you come across any content that's really resonated with you? I'm going to give you my example. Now, this was done through television medium. It was an advert. It was done by the NHS. And I'm not going to put any pictures on here. But for those of you that have known me for quite a few years will know that I used to smoke. And probably about 2013, I think it was, in January, I had seen this advert come on TV, and it was a guy standing outside his house, see, here's me doing what I used to do, smoking his cigarette, and as he inhaled, the cigarette had like looked like a blister, or it turned into a boil really, and every time he inhaled, it would fester and it would become really disgusting. And I was so visually impacted by that, because that visual aspect told a story. It doesn't have to be text that tells the story. The visual side can work as well. That I was so bothered by it, and it really stuck in my head, that I stopped smoking instantly. And I just, and then I became for a while a really annoying ex-smoker. And I still now sit next to people who might be sitting outside, and we all have to be outside at the moment, especially here in Wales, because we're actually, during the situation we're at the moment in lockdown, we're not allowed inside pubs and restaurants yet. If I sit near someone that's smoking, I'm like so also the same as if I'm behind someone, because I'll probably have my daughter with me, and so, you know, mother instinct kicks in. So please do let us know, pop it into the comments area, into the chat, or into the questions area, and let us know if there's been anything that you've had that's really resonated, or even better, pop it on social, and then we can all see it together, because after this webinar we can all just use that #IntBunch hashtag. Okay, so now we've talked about the first component, the first essential component, which is characters. The next one that we're going to talk about is conflict. Now, this is a lesson. So how does the character overcome a challenge? And this is in the power of what you teach. So this is really important. It's something that's going to create an emotion. and it makes a human connection. And remember, people sell to people. So you want people to believe in what you do and also believe in you. And that's where the trust level comes in. So that's where you need to be authentic. And without conflict, there is no story. And that's a really important part of storytelling, that without conflict, there's nothing. I mean, each of these three components is so essential that we're going to talk about, that without any of them, there is no story. So conflict needs to fit the audience. And we talked about this earlier, about it being specific to your target audience. So you need to understand their problems, their pain points, the needs, and the stage of the buyer's journey as well, and where those fit. So the buyer's journey, there are 3 stages, and it's awareness, consideration, and decision. So ultimately, a task for you is that you would just need to spend time outlining the problems and the solutions and the products and services for each stage of that buyer journey, map it out to better understand the conflicts when they're needed. Now, if you have done personas, for example, you will know and understand who your audience are. If you haven't done personas, you need to do personas. They're an excellent thing for you to reference, for you to just refresh your mind and say, I have this early career researcher. I know that their pain point is that they have a lot of pressure to publish. They haven't published before, so they're not going to be very experienced. They may have pressure from the institution to publish 2 articles in a high impact factor journal, so a journal with an impact factor over X. And if they don't actually pass their course. There are instances of that, and I know that's an extreme example, but I wanted to give it just to show you a pain point of what an early career researcher may go through. Some people in the industry have already done these personas, and I've seen a few of these, and I know that I've got someone on this masterclass who they've already went through an extensive work around personas, and they did a fantastic job. Okay, so resolution, this is a 3rd one, and this is about where you have conflict, you will need a resolution. So every good story has an ending and completes the story and includes a call to action. It would be a bit like a salesperson working really hard to ensure that they had been doing their selling pitch, but they never asked for the sale, and then they just walked away. So we've got those 3. We've got, I could test you, characters, conflict, and resolution. But with that, and aligned with that, you need to be thinking about what's your point of view. How are you going to be talking in your content? So you need to be thinking about whether you're going to be talking in the first person. Now, this is great for blog posts, say, for example, where you're talking about experiences, or from a company's perspective, you're saying, we did this and we found this. It helps to establish a personal connection. This can also be done from like a notable author as well in a book, and it really does build authority. And it can be more confessional. So that's very much like, I saw this, I did this, I learned that. So that's very much in the first person. Now, the second one that we have is the second person. It's quite good, isn't it? First, second, you know, this is the second point. So the second person is about what the view of the audience is. Now, I touched on this before about personas and about how incredibly important they are. This is where you have to understand who they are. And the persona is about building a profile of who that person is. What are their buying goals? What are their intentions? What are their pain points? What are they looking to do? And that's where you're going to create that emotional hook to resonate. And you have to tell them in a way that shows empathy. So that could be, for example, you will see, you will learn. And that could be across any content. And the third one that we have here is where you might talk in a third person. Now, examples of this, where you say he said or she said, is maybe you have a case study and you're running through that case study, or maybe actually you're introducing a case study, or it could be like a press release, for example. So there are also instances where you could use all these 3, but what I will say is choose one and be consistent. The instances where you may use all 3 is if you have a content piece like a blog post and you're starting the first person by saying, this is how we hired a copywriter for our marketing team. This is the process that we went through. And then the next bit could be, these are recommendations that you can take away and that you can apply and that you can do. And then the third one might be a case study of someone actually taking those recommendations and saying, this worked for me. So first person, second person, and third person. What we find in the industry as it is right now, and as I talk about the industry, I'm not talking about marketing, I'm talking about the academic publishing industry. What we find in this industry now is that a lot of the content is very much done in a second person way of speaking, because you want to resonate with them. You want to create that emotional hook. And also it's about inclusivity as well. So we've got here some tips for crafting your message. So you can decide emotions, values, and ideas that your brand offers. And remember, if you want these slides, we will share them with you. What your audience really needs from you. Now, understand how your product service helps your customers. Now, for 3 of these, I've got examples that will appear on the right-hand side. And so the first example here about understanding how your product service helps your customers is from Basecamp. Basecamp have quite an informal way of speaking. It's inclusive. You can see here that they're talking in the second person. Basecamp helps you wrangle people with different roles, responsibilities, and objectives towards a common goal, finishing a project together. So really from that, someone will take that and go, yeah, I'm managing people, or I'm a project lead and I'm dealing with people in all different roles and responsibilities, but we're all working towards the common goal, which is probably the company objectives. But this is about finishing a project together, not standing alone. So you need that platform that's going to enable that collaboration. Also, you might want to identify what problems are your readers struggling with. So this is written in the first person. I was socially awkward. I would say the wrong thing at the wrong time. Everyone around me would stare at me silently. And later, I would beat myself up about saying the wrong thing. This went on for years. Now, for me, that really resonates with me, because if I get up and I'm doing talks for presentations, I always feel quite nervous about it. And when you feel nervous, it just means that you care. But also if I go into a room at an event and it's full of people which are clients, prospective clients, industry peers, you know, I feel like that. So that for me really resonates with me. And it is about how does it make them feel? And that's really important. So you can turn your brand into an experience that they can take in, that you want them to lap up. And map your story, as we mentioned earlier, to the buyer journey, to those 3 stages. And then write the story replicating in their language so that they understand. Now, if they're really technical, or you're dealing with really academics, for example, who are scientists, it's about using a language that's going to resonate with them. And just be clear and concise. And you don't have to go down a technical route. Because they will smell you a mile off if you can't write how they would write. But it's about being smart with your approach and resonating, because at the end of the day, everyone are people. That just didn't make sense for a moment then, did it? So when they feel you understand them, then they want to learn more. You've got them. Weak copy is full of marketing bump. So short sentences and simple words, that conveys passion. And persuasive copy is infectiously passionate. That is not my sentence, that was taken from a website, but I thought I can't change that. I felt that that was as good as it's going to get. So persuasive copy is infectiously passionate. And consumer text should be simple and clear, engaging and focused on the benefits for the reader. And also, you could try a more conversational tone. So I've given an example here of Evernote because it's technology focused, and everything in Evernote instantly syncs across any computer or phone you use. Start working on one device and continue on another without ever missing a beat. So, I mean, they are identifying the conflict there, they're giving the resolution, they're making it resonate, they're coming across more personable as well. So that's a really nice example. So the Basecamp one as well, that is done in a more conversational tone. So we're going to move on from that now. If you have any questions, let me know. We will come to some nice examples soon. So Simon is an ex-advertising executive, and he is an author and speaker, and he founded something called the Golden Circle. And you can go to his website and you can download his presentation on the Golden Circle, and you can pay however much you want as a financial contribution. But for him, it's about giving access to this so that everyone in the community, the marketing community, and those in copywriting can benefit. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And what you do simply proves what you believe. So I just want to say that first sentence again. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And that takes me on to this slide. Now, if you've ever come across the Golden Circle, you're going to know what I'm about to say here. And if you haven't, then I'm going to enlighten you. So this is about framing your story, and it's an inside-out approach that's used by services like Google and Apple. And the next section, I'm going to be just showing you some examples of Apple Speak. So what it is normally when copy is pulled together, or when pitches, or when anything like that's pulled together, you start with what, and then you go how, and then why. But this is different. This is starting from the inside and then going out. So why are you doing what you are doing? This is about creating an emotional connection. So why are you doing what you're doing? How will this help your audience? That's emotional as well. And then you have the logical side, which is what are you offering? And that's more the logical kind of factual side. And remember earlier I said that you can have the more factual side in there, the data, statistics, the stuff that really resonates with me, but you need that story behind it. So you need the why and you need the how. So you can go onto his website, as I said, just look up the Golden Circle, Simon Sinek, and you'll go to his website and you'll see that you can download the full presentation on it. Right, I am an Android user, but I love the copywriting work that Apple does. And so I want to show you some examples here. And these are specifically related to the iPad Air 2. Now, excuse that these are a little bit grainy, but ingenuity makes it thin, aluminium makes it strong. Now that specifically is addressing some key points here, and then the text goes on to further address it in a very specific tone, very conversational tone, but it's also done in second person. So and it's got technical language in there, and you'll see that there's technical language throughout, but it's done in a really clear and concise way. So you know, this new tablet, it's thin, but it's also strong. And the same here with so capable, you won't want to put it down. So thin and light, you won't have to. So that's already addressing that, oh, right, great, it's really powerful. I can do the stuff I need it to do, but it's not, I'm not going to be carrying around a really cumbersome tablet. It's thin and light, fantastic. Then what they've done is that they've gone into specific pain points that they know that people are looking to address. And so we talked about the fact that it's thinner, that it's stronger, the fact that it's powerful, but it's still thin and strong. And here we talk about display. Now, one of the things I want to highlight in this is not just a thinner display, a better display, because people were thinking, well, because it's thinner, what's compromised? And what they've done here is that they've used some terminology, very clear and concise, but said things like fusing what had been 3 layers into one. Now, if you love Apple, which many people do, you'll actually probably read their copy that they do, because it's not a lot to read and it's usually done in a really nice tone. And so actually just by saying fusing what had been 3 layers into one, someone might say to me now, you know, tell me about the iPad Air 2, and I'll be like, oh, they fused 3 layers into one. It's so easy, and then I feel, oh, I'm a bit of a technical expert. So it's really clever, it's really smart language. And then the final one that I want to show you here is cameras. And there's literally saying, you know, 2 amazing cameras cleverly disguised as an iPad. And then it starts talking about, you know, you being a photographer. And so you start seeing yourself as this photographer, and the fact that there's all this great stuff that you can do, but also you can easily FaceTime. So it's really cleverly written stuff. Okay. Another example here is Innocent Drinks. So what they've done here is that they had launched Innocent Bubbles. And with this text here, they've been really clever. So they said, there are times when you fancy a bit of an extra sparkle with your refreshment. So allow us to introduce Innocent Bubbles Tropical, a delicious, lightly sparkling blend of pure pineapple, orange and grape juice, spring water, and absolutely nothing else. It's a bit of a posh holiday in a can, only without the pesky sand. And with 1 portion of fruit and only 90 calories per serving, it's the bubbly way to get 1 of your 5 a day. So it's quite quirkily written, but what it does do is it addresses and says, look, these are the ingredients that you get and absolutely nothing else. So for those people that are quite health conscious, it also says that, you know, you get 1 portion of fruit, it's only 90 calories, and you're basically getting 1 of your 5 a day. So people are going to really like that. There's a lot of people out there who are very health conscious. But also because it's more of a tropical feel to it, what they've done is that they've made you feel like it's something that's related to a holiday. And for most people, holidays have a really warm feeling. And so instantly that's going to resonate with them. And it's also going to tie an emotion to it. So it's very clever. The next one is Dropbox. I can really resonate with this one. So I have not dropped my phone, touch wood, down the toilet like many people have when they've been in their back pocket. But even if your computer has a meltdown or your phone goes for a swim, your stuff is always safe in Dropbox and can be restored in a snap. Dropbox is like a time machine that lets you undo mistakes and even undelete files you accidentally trash. Now, I have accidentally deleted a file and then thought, oh gosh, I'm not going to find it. And I did. I found it. I was staggered. So it's genius like that. This one here is more written for sales text. I'm not going to read all this, but what this does is it's quite clever. It creates a story where when you start reading it, you feel the cool breeze, you smell the cherry blossom, you see the cherry blossom, you can see people picnicking under a tree. If you know what that specific tree is, you'll visualize that tree. And then you'll start seeing she smiles, you know, you'll start kind of reenacting it in your head. And what's really interesting is here, this is about a classic cloak, but inside, when she opens it up, her soft wool coat, it reveals a vibrant leopard print lining. And so there's her personality, but it's hidden, and she can unveil it when she wants to. So that's something that you kind of read and go, oh, that's a bit of me, that is. For those outside the UK, John Lewis is a retail outlet, and they did this campaign every Christmas. This is one of the retail outlets that tries to get the best Christmas advert on TV. And so this one is about a little girl who looks out through her telescope and she sees an old boy on the moon, and he's on his own. And they did this in collaboration with the charity Age UK. And so she ends up sending him a present, and it's very emotional. A lot of it is what you watch, but then the text that they have is very powerful as well. And it's not a lot of text, and that's the point here. And here is an example of where they're using the visual side as well to tell the story. So show someone they're loved this Christmas. And I think that, gosh, that just sent a shiver down my spine saying that. Put the hairs up on me, because I think with everything that we've been going on at the moment with the COVID-19 situation, this will probably resonate with people even more, because people have been feeling isolated, and it's just a pandemic that is continually happening throughout the world. So I wanted to show you a couple of other visual examples just for a bit of fun. In the UK, there was a time when KFC ran out of chicken. So they've basically just done here an advert just to say, you know, we're sorry. And then they use really short sentences, really just a few words sometimes in the sentences, just to say, do you know what, sometimes our chicken restaurants didn't have chicken, and you even traveled from really far to come to us, and we're really sorry, and but we're making progress, etc., etc. So these are just nice adverts that they tell a story inside them. So this one here, this is an ad for men, and even though it's got lipstick on there and it's bright red because it's L'Oreal, but it's about hiring women in leadership roles, and actually with a quota of women at 30%, you see, 15% profitability. So it's showing the importance of having women. It's funny to have that from L'Oreal, but I think that that's great that they would make that stand. And then finally, this is very visually impactful. This is just 2 simple sentences, but this is believe in something, even if it means sacrificing everything. And then at the bottom, Nike, just do it. Everyone, or most people, that resonates with that tick now. They can get away with just using that part of their logo. But because you see this picture of this guy and it's right up there, and you really get that sense. So that could be you in the photo. Okay, so do let us know if you have any questions. But the storytelling formula is another interesting one. And I will, after this session, go and check on Twitter or LinkedIn or Facebook or Instagram if you've used the hashtag #IntBunch. Maybe Lauren, you can check for me, though that's a lot of channels for you to check. But we'd love to hear the examples of what really has resonated for you. So I want to talk to you about a storytelling formula that I know about. Now, I sent a link in this chat at the beginning to the blog post. Now, there are so many formulas in there, and I mean there are a lot. There's probably in total, there's probably 40 something formulas and types of ways of doing headers as well. So what I've specifically focused on here is one of the storytelling formulas, and this is about PPPP: picture, promise, prove, and push. So this is paint a picture to create a desire for what you are offering. Show the benefits you promise to deliver on. Prove this through case studies, testimonials, and other evidence. And then push, so get the reader to take action through considered or careful encouragement. And that's a really good formula that you can use when you're thinking about storytelling. But do go and check out the blog, that blog post, because it does highlight a lot of different storytelling words. It highlights a lot of formulas and also headers that you can use as well to capture attention, because of course you can write an amazing story, but if your header doesn't originally attract that attention, doesn't originally create that hook that then makes them go on to read this amazing copy that you've written, then you kind of wasted your time in a way. So you need to create that really good header, whether that's for email, whether that's for your blog post, whether that is for any type of content that you're writing, because most of the time they're just going to see that header first. We've got a couple of examples of header formulas, and I'm not going to go into too much detail with these, but these are all in the blog post that I mentioned. So what I've done here is I have bolded what is part of the formula, and then I have added something on the end which is specific to the academic publishing industry. So, who wants to be a published author? The secret of the University of Swansea Library's success. Now, I live just outside Swansea, so of course I am going to big up Swansea University. Here is a method that is helping authors to write more successful manuscripts. Little known ways to analyze usage statistics. That's if you're focusing towards like a librarian, for example. Here's a quick way to measure your ROI. We analyzed 2019 email statistics. Here's what we learned. So those are some examples. Now there are loads, and some of these you might feel, do you know what, I find those too salesy, or they don't have the right tone for what I want. That's okay. what we're doing is we've given you lots of formulas for headers and also for the storytelling text, and you can pick what you feel is most appropriate for what you're looking to ultimately achieve. So I'm now going to summarize the process of storytelling. Okay, so first I want you to understand your characters, and this is about the personas. If you haven't done personas already, do them. They are so important. If you need help, we'll help you. But there's something that you need to review and refresh yourself on, just to say this is the target audience that we're dealing with, because sometimes in marketing you may be targeting multiple audiences, and you want to understand what are their pain points, why are they looking to do what they're looking to do, how can you really resonate with them and create that emotional hook. You want to define your core message. So we talked about what voice you want to speak in. This is about tone that you want to use as well. Some organizations have a document, especially when they use services like ourselves to create copy. They have a tone of voice guide. I know one of our customers has that, and it's really helpful and really useful. And also it's about making sure that you have defined, not just for your brand, but also for the product and the service, the vision and the value as well. Now, if it's from a brand perspective and you work for a larger organization, you may find that it's been done already. So you can really know and understand what your brand's vision and values are. You can decide what kind of story you're telling. And so this is where the conflict happens and how you're going to tell the story. And then ultimately you want that resolution, don't you? So you want to identify a call to action. There's no point you creating a great header and then writing, you know, a brilliant copy that's done in a storytelling way, and then ultimately you have no resolution for them because they're like, well, what can I do now? Unless of course you've got some specific recommendations, but part of that may be part of your call to action. So you need to then choose, what am I going to be using? Am I going to be doing a blog post? Is this for email? Is this for web copy? Is this for social? Is this for digital? Is this for video? What's it for? And then just start writing. Now, you can't see it at the moment, but just over here, I have a flip chart. And so when I'm running through ideas for things like video scripts and stuff like that, I will just scribble all over this board. And I will just get everything out of my head, and then I'll put it into a structured way for myself. And I find that kind of thing amazing. And there are many digital tools out there that you can use as well for brainstorming, and lots of different ways that you can do brainstorming. But just start writing. So what are the next steps for you? So create a swipe file. What is a swipe file? When you're online, when you're in the, you know, if you're in an underground tube station like in London or in New York, and you want to, and you see a great advert and you think, oh, that's awesome. Or you've come across something and you love it. Capture it, keep it, retain it, put it into a file, whether it is an image that you've taken, whether it is a link to a site, whether you've copied the text. Always keep your references and cite where you've got it from, just because there may be other interesting stuff in that area too. But keep a record of the fantastic copy that you see that resonates with you or that you want to use to inspire you. There is some amazing copy out there, and if you find a style that you really like that works as well for what you're doing professionally or personally, then just make sure that you get yourself lots of examples. Now, something quite random that you can do here also is you can look at web copy. You could look in the industry at web copy that's on websites of publishers, of service providers, those who are intermediaries, and also of libraries, for example. And you may go onto there and you may find some that you think, oh, that's great. Like, for example, I love, even though this is not web copy, I love the social post that Cardiff University Library does. They're really funny. They've got a great tone. It always makes me smile when I see them. And when I see them, it's quite likely that I'll engage with them as well. I'll like them or I'll comment. So I think that you'll know that you probably come across some websites and thought, oh, that's terrible. Or you come across some and thought, yeah, that's great. And also it's about looking and reading things and going, that's not quite right. I mean, you might even go onto some predatory publishers' websites and see what they're writing, just out of interest. Explore the examples that we send you. So, for example, in that blog post that we've done, and choose the right formula for you. And of course, you can try and experiment different ones, but we're basically giving you those formulas to empower and enable you. And thanks to Stacey for that. Choose your tone as well. What kind of tone of voice, and be consistent. Be consistent across all of your copy. And that's really important because you want to have a consistent tone of voice. You want to resonate. And when you have multiple different tones of voices going on, maybe you've got very professional speak, maybe you've got more conversational speak mix going on, that can really then dilute the message of your brand and also the position of your brand. Sometimes a product or a division within, or a smaller business which is owned by a larger business, may have its own very distinct tone of voice, very different from its parent company, and that can sometimes often happen. Be consistent. I talk about this. This isn't just in copywriting. This is about being consistent in anything that you do in marketing, digitally as well, anything that you do across social channels. Be consistent. It's so imperative. But also be truthful and authentic as well. You need to connect with your niche. Sometimes that's not possible because when you're coming at a higher level, you might be trying to connect with librarians, researchers, readers, authors, lots of different target audiences in one, but then you're in the same industry together. So it has to be something that's generic enough that's going to resonate. But then if you're actually then targeting one of those as a subset, you know, talk to them in their own language, connect with them in the way that they would want to be connected with, that's going to have an emotional hook that resonates with them. So I'm going to finish this presentation by just talking about David Ogilvy. Now, if you haven't heard of David Ogilvy, he was an advertising executive, hugely well known, created some amazing adverts, and he also has some really good quotes. So one of his quotes that I want to leave you with in this respect is, tell the truth, but make it fascinating. And I think that's what's really important, because when you tell the truth, you're trusted and it's authentic. Okay, so I'm going to get you to engage with me again. I'm going to get you to do a final poll. And so this poll is to ask you, do you now feel better equipped to start creating your own storytelling copy? And I'm going to give you a few seconds to answer this. And when you're thinking, I wonder if that hasn't answered that yet, because maybe they're in another screen. We all do it. Okay, great. So 100% of you said yes. Yay! We love great stats like that. Now, what I do want to remind you to do is do tell us that if there's any training that you specifically want us to cover. When we finish this webinar, a survey is going to pop up. And just pop in there if there's any specific areas that you want us to cover. If you didn't know, we actually have a YouTube channel, The International Bunch, on YouTube, and we'll send you the link in the email that follows this. When we load this video onto YouTube, then we'll send you the link to the recording, and also you'll get access, obviously, to the YouTube channel. And in there are lots of videos about hints and tips. There's a YouTube one, there's one on using Twitter, there's one on using Facebook, LinkedIn, there's one on using Reddit, and there's Instagram as well. Reddit, I'm absolutely in love with Reddit. And if you haven't seen that video yet, please go and have a look at it. It's about, I don't know, 13, 14 minutes long. So just enough time for you to have a cup of something. Okay, so I can see we've got some questions coming in. And let me just check that I haven't, yes, there we go. Just checking I hadn't forgotten anything. Okay, so how should I measure the success of my writing? I think that is really important question. Hang on a second, that was another example that I gave there. So there's different ways that you can measure the success of your writing, but I would say that ultimately use shortened URL services so that you can track to see the levels of click-throughs that you've had to your posts. I am a great advocate of using an open repository like Figshare. So if you create collateral in a PDF form, like an infographic, put it on Figshare or another open repository. Figshare gives your content a DOI, a digital object identifier. Now, if you don't know what that is, that's basically a unique number that is given to a published piece of work. And usually you'll find that academic journal articles or book chapters or books, when they're created digitally, they have a digital object identifier. It's a bit like having a barcode. And so your piece of content through Figshare has its own DOI. And so you can use that link and you can embed it into your websites or link through to it. And Figshare is a sister company under digital science to Altmetric. And what happens is that in Figshare, you'll see that there's a donut that appears that shows the impact of your work is having. So how many people have mentioned it online in Twitter, how many people have mentioned it in a blog post. If you don't know about Altmetric, go and check them out. Altmetric, singular, is a company. Altmetrics, plural, are metrics that are alternative metrics that you might use. So this is, for example, for an author to measure the impact of that their work is having. Or it could be a journal or a publisher who is looking to measure the impact of their articles or their book chapters or their books that they have out there. And you can get DOIs for lots of different content. So if it has a DOI, then Altmetric can view it. And that will be, and I'm going to get technical here, a DOI that will be registered with Crossref. I'm not sure if there are limitations, so I'm just adding that in there, whether they may have other DOI agencies that they may use, but Crossref is the main one. So that's certainly a way, but I definitely measure anything that you do. Try and get any kind of metrics analysis that you've got. Be really smart about it, and then test and see what works. You know, if you do email, of course you can do A/B testing. There's lots of things that you can do, but always measure what you're doing. Stop doing what doesn't work and what doesn't work effectively. As marketers, we need to be producing work that we're really proud of. And I want you to turn around and go, yeah, do you know what? I'm really proud of that piece of work, rather than thinking, I'm just doing this because I've been told to do it and we've always done it. But actually, if you measure it and it's not working anymore, why are you still doing it? Why are you wasting your time? It's about looking at the return on investment that you're getting. Okay, so I think there was one more question that we had. Bear with me. Okay, see, look, I've done it again. I'll leave it on there for the moment. Okay, so do you have any go-to formula that you use? It really depends on who we're writing for, and actually we're going to be revising our own style. So some things like AIDA, that's quite popular, and in our blog post we've listed ones that are quite popular, but we are going to be looking to change, and so we really want to be having that emotional hook and resonating. We're also going to be ensuring that consistently all of the stuff that we're doing is written in the second person. Now our blog posts sometimes will be in the first person, but it's when you run a company and you're a busy team, as I know all of you are busy and you're set with all that you're doing, sometimes you don't often get time when you own a company to look after your company's own marketing. So we suffer sometimes because we prioritize our clients over it. So if you see anything of ours and you're like, oh, that needs changing, you know, let us know. But we are going to be going through a refresh. Sorry, Lauren, if you didn't know that, but yeah, we are. Okay, great. So do let me know if you have any questions. Some of you here know how to contact me directly. If you do want to contact me directly, you are more than welcome. And for those who haven't been in contact with us, just simply email us at team@internationalbunch.com. Lauren and I both have access to that account. And so if either one of us can help you with any question or query that you've got, we'll happily do so there. So that's team@internationalbunch.com. Don't forget to use that hashtag #IntBunch to tell us your stories or what most resonates with you. And if you have noticed, on my right hand side there is that Google image, which is I would like you now, all of you, I can't hear you, to say as it's written. And I actually I tried it. I went into my Google search and I said that, and it comes up, and Piccadilly Circus is what comes up. I just kind of told you, but it's all a bit of fun. Okay, all right, everybody. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. You will get an email after this, probably in the next couple of days. You'll get an email after this with a link to the recording. We'll also give you a reminder link to the blog post, and we'll give you a link as well to the YouTube channel. Please do subscribe to that. We've just started to do more promotional work around that. We've got some really great videos already in there. So thank you very much, everybody. And as we end this session, remember the survey pops up, and it literally takes like maximum 2 minutes. So SurveyMonkey told me. So thanks so much, everybody. Wish you all the best. Stay safe, and I look forward to hearing, hopefully seeing you at our next one, which talks about author workflow, which you can find on our website. Bye, everyone.